Want to make aggressive music like this? Check NeuroBlade, Letsynthesize's Serum 2 preset pack. Link below.
The drums. What I like in the original is how you can see that the snare is in stereo, simply by having two instances from the same snare. One is transposed down, and as you can see in the MIDI, they are delayed a bit. And this creates an awesome stereo field, I love it. Now the main bass, all the main bass. So we can see in the original is we have the sub and a separate higher frequency kind of whatever, and they sound so great together. But it's important to know that they are separate sounds. If you load up an Incubate, we can see that the sub is a completely separate object that we can even cut off and have the higher frequency layer. So what I hear and see in this higher layer thing, the pitch is constant, so we don't deal any pitch movement here, but as I can hear, it's more like a bandpass filter and distorted kind of whatever. And because it is so simple, I bet we are not dealing with saw waves, square waves, but only sines. So these are enough clues to start doing something. Okay, so as you can see, I just played the MIDIs for every fourth. Let's load up Serum. So I already set up the sub and the main saw oscillator, but as I told you before, we don't need saws, only sines. At least this is what I heard. And because the song is really low, so C sharp, I bet the second oscillator should be a little higher, like 2.5 octaves or something. So if you listen closely, the higher layer thing has the same pitch right now that we're having. Okay, so let's try to have a little FM. Yeah, we are getting closer. And now, as I told you before, let's try a bandpass filter. And just pull it back really low, because this whole thing is on really low frequency. And let's use it for fast LFO to move the cutoff. And because we need lots of resonance, because distortion loves resonance. Okay, but we need to match the LFO to the original one. And also we need to use it on the main level. So once again, we're dealing with a directly rooted out sub and this middle bass, middle range kind of whatever that we are just making. Okay, so let's go to the FX and start with the distortion. We need to choose the sine fold. And the difference is audible. But we need another bandpass filter after the distortion. So without the filter, with the filter. Now let's use an OTT, but let's go to the factory and choose the OTT Serum 1 version. It brings up those nice mid-range so nicely, but because it also makes the sound very harsh, let's use a low-pass filter. And another equalizer, then I'm going to use another high-pass filter, add another boost to the mid-range at around 1.2K, and another boost at around 800 Hz. So this little bump in the mid-range is actually very important, and this is the result that we just created. To step this forward, let me show you an awesome trick that I bet you've never used. So because we are dealing with two different movements on the LFO, so this faster one and this one shot, I'm planning to use another LFO, something like this, but how to switch between the two LFOs. So let's go to the matrix and let's duplicate these three. Now as the aux source, let's choose the macro 1 for all of them. And for the LFO 2 parts, let's click on the invert. So when the macro is on 0, we are choosing LFO 1, but if it's on the right, we are choosing LFO 2. So what we need to do is just apply the macro automation, something like this. So with the drums, the problem here is that every hit sounds the same. So let's fix it with the third LFO and let's go to the FX and drop it on the distortion bandpass filter and click on the free so we don't stick to the dog grid. Make it really slow, so click on the hertz and around 0.4 hertz we are good. So as you can hear, it slightly changes the brightness of the sound. Now we are dealing with another issue, is that this third hit bass sounds very different than this one. So we need to do something with it. So let's drop it on a few parameters. For example, the filter 1 cutoff, just some slight differences. Maybe we can crank this up a little more. Okay, and because LFO 2 is the shape of this first hit, let's try to drop on some of the bosses, like here and maybe here. So we can call this color change. And again, just automate the macro. Okay, this sounds cool, but the question is how to step this forward. So in the original Skrillex album, we have just a very short part, but how we can evolve this beat. So my idea was to add another sign, but this time a 4th higher one. And obviously again, let's take LE42 and LE41 on the 3rd wavetable level. And in the matrix, where you can see the C level, use macro 3 for the aux source. So when we want, we can just add it in. As another step, if you want, you can add the convolve module right before everything and take macro 3 on the mix. So when you add the 3rd oscillator, you add a little convolution to it too. But you will have to adjust the size and the tone a little bit probably. And finally, this is how we came up with this.